Today, I'm going to show you how to create acromantula legs. The things we'll need for our acromantula leg bottle is one glass bottle. This is a 1,000 milliliter apothecary jar, and I actually picked this up in the bathroom section of Hobby Lobby, but you can find it all over the place, and I'll put a link in the description to another one. We are going to use this silicone fake spider. I picked this up at the end of Halloween last season, but I found the same one online, so I'll go ahead and link it. But Michaels has carried this spider the last couple years, so I'm hopeful that they'll carry it again this year. But if not, any faux spider will do, or you can make the legs yourself. Then we're going to use some Spanish moss, some fake spider webbing. We're going to use some leather cording, as well as a couple different ink pads and distress oxides. Then we're going to use an alcohol ink blender as well as some makeup sponges. We're going to use a mix of a couple different alcohol inks to distress our bottle. And for that, we're going to use a gray, a regular brown, a Mars black, and an espresso. We're going to use some scissors as well as our hot glue gun loaded with regular clear hot glue. And finally, we will need our label printed on sticker paper, and the link for this is in the description down below. Let's get started. Would you like a chance to win a monthly potion bottle from me? Then consider supporting me over on Patreon. All of my patrons have a chance to win a monthly potion bottle. Patreon not your thing? No worries. You can become a member here on YouTube and get exclusive icons and emojis to use in the comment section. Link is in the description down below. The first thing we're going to do for this one is distress our bottle. So because these are juvenile acromantula legs, obviously they were probably taken on not the best terms. And because they are a Class A non-tradable goods in the Ministry of Magic size, I'm gonna say that these may not get picked up very regularly. So I feel like the jar would be dingy and dirty and just look aged and worn. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, as you guys can see, this bottle is a biggin. But I feel like even juvenile acromantula legs are not tiny. I think the little bit larger bottle for this makes sense. But we're going to use some alcohol inks to go ahead and distress this bottle. Now, I could sand this bottle and add some scratches and things, but truthfully, with the alcohol ink, I just don't think you need it. It already gives it a very aged, worn look once it's done. Now, you don't have to seal your alcohol inks, but if you don't seal them, just know that the color may change in time because it's not UV protected, and if it comes in contact with alcohol, you may actually have some of the color go away. Just a multitude of different things. You could scratch it off, all that. So when we are 100% done with this, I am going to go ahead and spray this with a couple coats of the Kamar varnish. And we're going to use some UV protectant spray. And then if you want to, you can go over that with a Krylon clear coat. Truthfully, with the Kamar varnish and the UV spray, that really is enough to just kind of give it an extra added protection. You can also brush Mod Podge over this, especially for this one, I would definitely do like a matte finish. But you will see brush marks. So do with it what you will. If you've done some of our alcohol ink projects with us in the past, you may already have the sprays to seal it. And if that's the case, definitely use them. But like I said, you don't have to seal it if you don't want to. Just know that the actual colors that you get on here may change over time. But you may end up liking that result. Now, to put our finishes on here, I'm going to do a combination of some makeup sponges. And I got a really big pack of these from the Dollar Tree. And I've been using them for years. So really inexpensive, but these work really, really nicely. I'm also going to use some of the alcohol ink blenders or appliers, and all this is a piece of felt. Now, when you buy these, it comes with the felt little refills and the felt itself. If you run out, just buy the sheet of felt for like 69 cents or less or whatever it is, and just cut the shape and stick it on. It works just as good. So don't feel like you have to buy the expensive refills. You can make your own, which is what I did on this one because I was out of refills. So literally I just took a piece of white felt, and I cut it to the size of my little blender here. Now, as I said, we're going to use a couple different colors. So we're going to use a black, a cool gray, an espresso, and a brown. Now, 3 of these are from Hobby Lobby, and they're the ones that you can get in the art department. They are super affordable, and they work really well. This one is one of the Tim Holtz alcohol inks. They make great alcohol inks, but they're a little pricey. So I just feel like it depends on how often you think you're going to use them as to whether you decide to invest in Tim Holtz inks or just go for the inexpensive ones at Hobby Lobby. So I'm going to put a glove on. You don't have to. I just don't want to get it all over my hands while we're dirtying this up. All right. So I'm going to take the lid off, and I don't really need to do a whole lot to the lid. We might do a little bit on the edge, but we're going to be covering a good chunk of the lid with some moss and some spider webs, so I'm not overly worried about that. I'm also not overly worried about the neck because we're going to wrap that with that black leather cording. So basically we're just focusing on the body of the bottle here. Now, I did some testing with a smaller bottle, and I'll show you that one here. So I used a 500 milliliter one to do some testing because I think I might do some 4-leg groupings of legs in this size jar. But as you can see, I just kind of went for an aged, dingy, dirty look. And then once we finish filling that and putting the legs in there and the label, it should look really nice. So we're going to do a similar effect on here. So because of that, I already have sponges that are dirty from the alcohol ink, so I'm not going to waste new ones. The first thing I'm going to start with is the brown. So this brown is a very yellowy, orangey brown. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So I put this one on first so that I could blend the other colors over it. So here you can kind of see on the sponge here, it is definitely like an orangey, sepia-toned brown. Now, if you've worked with alcohol inks before, you'll know that a little goes a long way. And if you don't like something, you just have to get some alcohol out and change it. So what I like about the makeup sponge is that it gives you a little bit more freedom, I feel like, to kind of swirl it around and change the shape. Whereas when you use the alcohol ink appliers with the felt, sometimes I feel like it can feel kind of stiff. Now, I do like how it stipples it on there, but I just don't think you get the same blended out look that you get with the makeup sponge. So as you can see, this has got a very like orangey effect, but I like it. And when we add the other colors, I do feel like it kind of adds another element. I'm going to add a little bit more to my sponge here so we can hit the bottom as well. And we're basically just going with whatever feels right. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And if you don't want to age up your bottle, you don't have to, but I felt like for this one, it made sense. All right, now that we have our bottle completely distressed and sealed, we're going to go ahead and get our spider legs ready. All right, so like I said, I picked this spider up from Michael's, but I will put a link to one down below as well. He's super cute, and I love how realistic he looks. And I feel like he's about the size of a Pekingese, so I felt like this was appropriate for our Juvenile Acromantula legs. So basically, we're going to cut his poor little legs off. So let me see how good I am at that. All right, well, There we go. Chopped off little legs. And I just used scissors. Alright, so now that we have our little chopped off legs, you will notice that they are hollow. So like I said, these are made of some kind of like silicone situation, but they are hollow on the inside. So I don't want you to be able to see that it's a hollow spider leg. So I'm going to show you how we're going to doctor these up. So I already did the other 7 legs. So basically, I put some paper towel down in there just to finish filling the hole. And then we added some hot glue and then color matched it with our ink pads. So, like I said, I have all of these done. So I'm going to show you how to do the last one. I used a combination of like the same color, tannish gray. I used my ground espresso distress oxide and then a black. And I'm going to get my hot glue gun plugged in so it's ready to go. Alright, so I just took a little piece of paper towel here. And I'm just going to wad it up and shove it into the opening of our little spider leg. I'm just trying to make sure that it keeps its shape and that the hot glue doesn't try to sink in when we are capping it off. There we go, and I just want to make sure that we have a nice filled end, so then that way we can hot glue over it and it's not going to collapse and be a weird shape. Alright, let's see if our hot glue gun is ready. Perfect. Alright, so we're just going to squeeze some glue on the end here and kind of round it off and just mesh it to the edge of our cut, so then that way it kind of gives it more of a rounded shape. And then we just let this dry, and then I'll show you how we're going to color match it. All right, our little leg is dry. So now I'm going to take another one of our makeup sponges, and I am just dabbing it into my ink pad. And then I'm just going to dab it on. This is similar to how we colored our dead man's toes for our Hocus Pocus potion. So, as you can see, this is pretty close to the color of the spider leg, but it's not quite perfect. So then that's why we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of the ground espresso and then go back with our gray tan. That just warmed it up a little bit. And then I'm going to finish it with just a tiny bit of black. And that looks pretty good as far as matching our acromantula leg. At least enough that when it's in the jar, it doesn't look unfinished and you're not seeing a big gaping hole inside of it. Alright, so now that we have all 8 of our legs all capped off and finished and color matched, we're going to start to fill our bottle. So I want to add a little bit of this Spanish moss to the bottom of this bottle, just so then that way the legs have somewhere to kind of hide in a little bit and it doesn't make the bottom look so awkward. So we're just going to start with a little bit here, and I'm going to shove that in, and then I'm just going to use one of my little stirrers we use to push that down a little. There we go, it's a little better since it's flatter. All right, so I'm just kind of pushing it down in the corner. And honestly, the more rustic it is, I feel like the more authentic it's going to look. So let me add all these little pieces. Okay, then we're going to add our legs. So I feel like I want to see the tips of our legs, so we're going to put them in like that. And we're just going to layer all 8 of our legs. Now, like I said, the 500 milliliter bottle that I practiced my aging effect on, I think I'm going to put 4 legs in there. I'll actually make 2 bottles of it. And that way you don't have to have quite as big of a jar if you don't want to. But it still gives you the same legs, just half of a spider's worth of legs instead of the whole spider. Alright, then if you feel like you need to move anything, you can either use like a cooking skewer, or this is one of those little weeding tools for a Cricut. I think I picked this one up at the Dollar Tree. It is super versatile. I use it on a lot of stuff. Alright, so I love that. I think that looks great. Our little creepy acromantula legs in there. So we're going to go ahead and cap this up. So for the top of our bottle here, I want to do a cluster of some of this same moss, and then I want to go over it with some of the spider webs like we did for acromantula eggs. So for that one, we did the spider webs over our wrapping, and I think it just added a really cool element. So I kind of want this, again, to go with that. I made the label to match. So I want to make sure that we kind of have the same element of some spider webbing up there as well. So to do that, I'm going to take some of my Spanish moss here. Just know this is going to get a little messy, so have a vacuum nearby or broom or whatever. All right, so I have a couple little sections here. And then I'm just going to take my hot glue and put a decent amount up here so I can stick my moss down. And it's okay if it sticks up and is a little crazy, because we're going to go over it with spider webbing, which is going to then kind of hold it down a little bit more or round it out some and make it a little less chaotic. Let's see. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to add a little bit to my edge, I think. So once we kind of just have a basis, we're then going to add some spider webbing. Now, as you may know, a little goes a long way of fake spider webbing. So I just kind of cut a small section of it here, and then that way I can open this up and spread it out, which is what makes it look like a spider web anyway. And then we're going to put it over our mossing. And then when we do our cording, we're going to lock it all down. So that way it looks like we just have a gross, almost like an egg-like structure of that webbing on the top. All right, so I think that's a good start. So now I can take my cording and I'm going to go over all of this. I'm going to continue to just kind of pull our moss and webbing into our cording. now that the cording is on and it has held down our spider webby moss, I actually think I want to take a little bit more of the webbing and go around the cording just to kind of age that up a little bit too. It just seems a little too perfect right now. So let's see. I think what I'll do is put just a tiny bit of glue back here, and then that way I can just kind of get a starting spot for my spider webs. And I'm going to spread this out and just kind of pull and stretch it over. As I go around. Okay, and I think I like that. Just kind of adds another little element. And again, makes it not so perfect. All right, I think we're ready to add our label. All right, now that we have our top done and our cording done, we're going to go ahead and add our label. And as I said, I made this label to be a companion piece to the Acromantula Eggs label. So it has the same background, same colors, similar shape. It's just vertical instead of horizontal, and it's bigger, obviously. So we're going to add this to our bottle. I did go around the outside edge with a matching marker, just like I always do. Again, it just gives it a more finished look. Actually, that looks pretty good. All right, we're going to rub that down. And then I want to take just a little bit of my Distress Oxide here. And I'm just going to pick a little up, and I'm just going to hit just a few parts of my label so that it feels a little aged too. And I think once we get our label on there, there we have it, our Acromantula legs. This will be the perfect companion to our Acromantula eggs, as well as our Acromantula venom. Or a great addition to add to our potion and prop collection make along the way. So if you guys like this video, give me the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.